the films and the work that has stuck with me the longest do that. And that's what I look for in a movie. I want to be confronted a little bit, you know? I want to be galvanized and made to look at something or think about something in a different way. I find that to be exciting.
I think you've said previously in another interview, as a filmmaker, you have a responsibility to tell the truth, even if it's uncomfortable, especially if it's uncomfortable. Can you talk more about that?
I think that there is such a gift in what film is capable of, what all the arts, but particularly film, and I think literature is capable of, in meaningful provocation, which is to say, confronting people with new ideas, a new way of looking at things. And I think that's how we collectively as a society grow. I think it's how new dialogues get fostered. I think it's how things that maybe go unspoken and unchecked get checked and dragged out into the light for people to really stare at them, warts and all. And I think that that's psychologically almost therapeutic for society, even if it's uncomfortable or even devastating in some regards. But I think that being able to galvanize people with staring at perhaps an uncomfortable reality is how that reality might get resolved, might change. Not that, you know, I don't think as a filmmaker, you know, you're out to change people's minds necessarily about an issue. I mean, certainly in documentaries, I think there's an aspect of that. But I think if you can look at a truth of a circumstance in a humane but extremely truthful way, then I think there's value in that, because I think it provokes a thought process and a reaction in the viewer that makes them confront these things in hopefully a meaningful and constructive way. And the films and the work that has stuck with me the longest do that. And that's what I look for in a movie. I want to be confronted a little bit, you know? I want to be galvanized and made to look at something or think about something in a different way. I find that to be exciting.
Out of curiosity, any, like, a couple films you can mention that have done that for you?
Yeah, I mean, and it goes both ways. It could be very, very kind of hardcore confrontational, like, you know, Clockwork Orange or the work of Gaspar Noé and things like that. I think all of Kubrick's movies, for me, do that in one way or another, actually, going back to Clockwork Orange. But, you know, I think that even more spiritual-minded filmmakers like a Terrence Malick, who has such a different way of articulating his stories in filmmaking, and really a very experimental way of making industry, let's say films. I think those types of articulations are very impactful to me, always have been. And then, you know, if there's stories that are about, let's say, a particular issue like Spotlight or, you know, Monster or you know, The Crying Game, what have you, you know, that take a risky approach at a you know, potentially somewhat taboo subject matter, if it's handled with grace and with intellect and respect, then I think it can be very provocative in a positive way, because it starts a dialogue. It pulls the tarp off of things that are often hidden and probably shouldn't be at our point in society.
I think you've also said we don't need more superheroes to punch through walls. We need stories to help us break through ourselves.
If I did say that, I agree with it.
Okay, great.
I'd say I said it, yeah.
I approve this message.
Yeah, I approve that message. I mean, look, there's a room and a very healthy place for just fun, frivolous entertainment. There is. And I like it as much as I'm sure everybody does in doses. Sometimes that's exactly what you need. But I think it undercuts also some of what the medium is capable of, because at its resonating at its highest level, I think that the filmic medium is capable of truly profound impact, and it can profoundly impact the individual thinking of a given person, let alone a group. And I think that, you know, it is not every filmmaker's responsibility to tell profundity in their work or to pursue that. It is not. I personally, I just very much enjoy when I see that. And I think because of the pressures of the marketplace, because of now a much more heightened metric of sort of audience response, because we live in this sort of instantaneous like, thumbs up, thumbs down type of culture now with social media, the immediacy of broad spectrum reaction to material, that people, I think artists are shying away a little bit from being risk-taking because they don't want to lose or upset an audience. They don't want to be problematic for the studios or the money sources to work with because they make, you know, controversial material, what have you. But I think as artists, you've got to weigh that and crunch that up in your own crucible of decision making and say, you know, do I want to just simply entertain and get a paycheck and make as many people, you know, happy with the work I make as I can? That's wonderful. That's a totally healthy mode of being a filmmaker. But I think there's also, you know, for those of somewhat of a different bent, to continue to take risks and to tell stories that might be, you know, more difficult and more, you know, not so safe. You know, we know what the superhero model is, not the supermodel model. We know what that is, and we've seen it kind of retold many, many times. I mean, to a lot of the superhero movies' credit, they have evolved into more complex narratives in the last couple of years because I think the audience has sort of done with just the banal save the day kind of thing. But, you know, no slight against superhero movies. I enjoy a Marvel movie. I enjoy Batman movies very much, which is not Marvel, but you know what I mean. And they have a place. They have a great place, and they're valuable. But I think you know, that's not to say we should, as filmmakers in the collective, be aspiring to just do that kind of material because we know it sells well and the studios want to make it. People want to flock to see it. We should be also thinking about, you know, stories that are specific to us that we feel should be told and take the risk to get them out there if we can.
Thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. Here is a complimentary question from our book Story Questions.